Phillies and Marlins, two of the worst teams in baseball, continuing their series tonight. Phillies have been playing just ugly, wretched baseball. We'll see if they have some sort of shakeup in mind up there. Doubtful. Seth Everett, NBC Sports Radio and Major League Baseball insider, joins us here as we flip past Memorial Day. We got to start putting the radar on some of these baseball teams, and the Phillies and Marlins are two of the worst in the game here. How did it, fall off the rail? This Phillies team has been painful to watch here. We know they weren't supposed to be very good, but are they taking steps backwards?
I don't know if it's backwards. I guess you would like to think that there's going to be more success, but this is pretty much how I saw this season playing out. I'm not too surprised. I am more surprised about the Marlins. I thought there's more talent on the roster, and the Marlins are a much more interesting team because there's a couple of guys that I think other teams would want. Christian Yelich, Marcell Ozuna. I could even see Tom Kohler getting something in return. I know they just sent him down. It's just an interesting situation for Philly. There's a reason why when we talked about opening day and how we didn't know a lot of these guys, that's par for the course. There have been flashes. There has been some shaky stuff. To me, it's bigger about the veterans. Hellickson's ERA is what, 7? You can't do it that way. And it's not going to turn into a winning franchise. And I'm not going to lie. I wish nothing but success for this Phillies team. My ties to them, but I don't see it.
Yeah, this is the worst 49-game stretch since 1930. I don't think people really envision this team being.
They didn't have
bad.
Twitter back then.
No,
Twitter wasn't big then, so it was a lot easier.
That's true. 17-32. It's their worst win-loss after 49 games since 1930. And I think a lot of people really thought, okay, yeah, they're not going to win, but they're taking steps in the right direction. And then you start to take a look around this roster and this franchise. You start to wonder, who is that next group of guys? I think that has become a big question around here. Are some of these guys, a couple of years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago now, you'd hear Jason Donald's name and, you heard Lou Marson's name. All of these players, they were going to be the next guys. None of those guys.
What was the outfielder that everybody was so afraid to call up? What was his name?
Who, Don Brown?
I'm forgetting. Yeah, Don Brown. Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure. And all these guys we heard so much about.
Brown? How can you call up Don Brown? It's too early. He's not ready. I remember all that.
Oh, yes. But the whole point is, we heard so much about those guys. They were going to be the next things. They all got traded, and none of them really have worked out. So we're wondering if these guys that the Phillies have that we hear so much about that they won't call up, are they just not good enough? Are they just not going to be good?
Yes, it's tough. It's tough when you're trying to rebuild an organization. The reason why this is so frustrating, and it's something about Philadelphia that's been well documented, but they took too long to start the rebuild. I've always said the rebuild should have been started probably at the end of 2012. They should have traded Hamels when they had the chance, even if they were going to re-sign him. And I thought that would have started the clock, and then. There was this loyalty to veterans, and, there wasn't a shortstop in the organization because the Phillies had a shortstop, and they had a second baseman, and there wasn't talk about anybody being a world beater. And, these scouts are pretty good. Social media has allowed for minor league scouts to do a lot of reporting. You know what I mean? And it's become a pretty niche industry. You don't hear a lot about Philadelphia, and to be honest with you, I've said before, I just don't know when the other shoe falls. If the frustration is that it's been rebuilding for too long, the reality of it is they didn't really start rebuilding until last year. They may have said so,
right,
but they were hanging on as much as they could. If they were really seriously talking about rebuilding, Ruiz should have been traded a year sooner. Utley should have been traded a year sooner. And the theory was when there was value for those guys, you could have turned it into something younger. I will say this. The Yankees are a great model because the Yankees are a team that did not have a farm system. There was nobody talking about their farm system, and all my sources were saying it was bottom third of the 30 major league clubs. They made 3 trades. They traded Andrew Miller, who they had under contract for 2 years, in the prime of his career. They traded Andrew Miller, and they got 3 prospects for him. They did. He traded Aroldis Chapman and Carlos Beltran,
right.
Two guys who were big pieces that had no value to them. So this argument, they gave Aroldis Chapman a World Series ring. But the reality was they didn't have loyalty to any of these guys. We're not talking about Jorge Posada and Bernie Williams. So what they did was they were willing to take it and make it a business decision. The Phillies weren't willing to do that. The Phillies were saying, wait a minute, we need to build. We had a sellout streak going. We need to keep fans in the seats. We're not ready to call it a rebuild yet. And that's why this is taking so long. If this is year 2 of a rebuild, I'm not even talking about this.
Yeah, this is 6 years now of bad baseball.
Right, it's year 5 of dissatisfaction, and that's had an adverse effect.
Seth Everett, NBC Sports. I'll finish with this. I feel like baseball is hockey. There's a fight every night. Is it just me, or is it getting ridiculous?
No, it's just you. I think that the internet has made it so that we see more. It used to be that you had to stay up and watch baseball tonight. That was the only way you'd see something like that. Now, with the social media and Twitter, and everyone jumped to an opinion. I just thought the Giants-Nationals fight was everything that's wrong with social media. And I'm usually a big fan of it. I'm a big proponent of it. But I just find that people jump to conclusions immediately. What did Giants fans want? You wanted Buster Posey to break his knuckles? Like, the guy's hitting 360. What did you want Buster Posey to do? And this was something that had been building for 3 years between Hunter Strickland and Bryce Harper. What was Buster Posey going to do? Break it up? What if Hunter Strickland said, if I get him, I'm getting him? And Buster Posey's like, I'm not standing in his way.
Yeah, that one.
People jump to
3 years. That's crazy.
Everyone's like, well, this tells you everything you need to know about Buster Posey. What would you rather have? Buster Posey standing up for his guy, now DL for 3 months? I just thought fans made so much of nothing.
Seth Everett, Seth_Everett on Twitter, NBC Sports Radio, and he joined us here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Phillies and Marlins tonight. Have fun with that one. Seth, appreciate the time as always, pal.
You got it.